Welcome back to Sports Wagering University's look at some conference tournament brackets. I'm joined by Kiev O'Neill from the Odds Breakers. Kiev, we love this time of the year, conference tournament time. We're going to talk Summit League today. How are you doing?
Great, man. So much to talk about here. Summit League, fast-paced league. Usually, I'm really excited to get into this. People forget about this league, but some of these teams make a little noise in the non-conference too. So it's going to be interesting to talk about it.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, historic run for South Dakota State. Great season for them. Does anybody have a chance to knock them off? We see them at about minus 200 quite a few places. So if you want South Dakota State, you're laying a pretty big price. As Kiev alluded to, there's a lot of offense in this conference. Not very many good defenses. I will say this one's played at Sanford Pavilion, I believe it's called, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yep.
So South Dakota State, South Dakota, kind of a de facto home court. But this one is played to the under more often than not, almost 60% to the under in the games played in the postseason here. So you'll get some high numbers that are high for a good reason, but I would lean toward the under in those games, just because the backdrops here are a little bit more difficult. This is a bigger gym than what these teams are used to playing in. So keep that in mind as you look at this conference tournament. We'll pull up here the odds for this one. South Dakota State, the favorite there on DraftKings. Looks like the second favorite is
Oral Roberts is the second at plus 500. South Dakota State laying chalk here, minus 175. You got to lay some coin for that one, right? North Dakota State next at 550, plus 550. And then it kind of gets worse and worse from there. Now, the two bottom feeders here, Denver and Omaha, I don't give them much of a shot here, Kyle.
No, I don't either. And I'm just trying to compare a little bit here. Oral Roberts, about 5-1, just about everywhere I'm seeing this. North Dakota State is plus 450 some places, plus 550 some places. If we look at this bracket too, I mean, the bracket kind of sets up, as Kiev has that one up there. South Dakota State is in a pretty good spot in the bracket. But man, they've had some close games in this conference. It's not like they've won all these games by a huge amount. In fact, I remember when they won, it was either an overtime or double overtime against Oral Roberts, and they needed a shot to get that into overtime right at the last second, or they would have lost that game. Of course, we remember Oral Roberts. They might have beaten a big name team from the Big Ten last year in the conference tournament. I think it might have even been Ohio State. I'm not sure.
You weren't at that game, were you, Kyle?
No, I wasn't. Max Asmus, a really good player for them. And they had Kevin O'Banner last year, remember? And then he went to Texas Tech. They definitely were better when they had somebody to help out Asmus there in the backcourt. As far as this conference, Kiev, I don't know. I think when I see this bracket, the thing that kind of stands out to me is South Dakota State's a 1 seed. And you could argue that they have a fairly easy path there at the top. Having said that, I don't know that they're so much better than everybody else that I want to lay 2-1. This is not a Gonzaga situation where they're that much more talented than everybody else. When I look at this, I see the bottom of the bracket. I see North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State's my favorite look in this one. Reason being, North Dakota State actually plays more defense than just about anybody in this conference. And defense is very important. North Dakota State, if you remember too, last year, absolute heartbreak to just barely not make the NCAA tournament. They lost by a point or two right at the end to Oral Roberts after they were down by about 20 points, come back, tie the game, and lose right at the end. They're a veteran team, well-coached team. I think they have a shot here in this one. Kiev, as you look at this bracket, what are your thoughts?
Well, I want to say, first of all, this is played in South Dakota, so you think that it benefits South Dakota State. Not really. This is the University of South Dakota, and I'm not even sure if it benefits them. These conferences and these teams, they play there all the time. It's an arena they're very used to. This isn't a big conference, so I'm not going to give much home court advantage really to South Dakota State. Probably none at all. Now, here's my problem with South Dakota State. Obviously, undefeated here, right? In conference play. I mean, that is amazing, but it's bad. And the reason that it's bad is because you kind of see some of this ugliness right here, right? I mean, they lose into Washington. Washington's a bad team. They lose to Idaho. It kind of tells me that they're vulnerable. And like Kyle said, they've had some very close games. Now, I agree with you, Kyle. I like North Dakota State as well. And if you at least look at what North Dakota State did, they kept this game close at South Dakota State, 80-76. They actually have some very good play themselves. You know, if you look at their stats, number 2 in defense, and this is when I look at a lot, this effective field goal percentage, they're not allowing a lot of 3s or 2s necessarily, right? So at least, you know, they're stopping teams from scoring. I like how they're doing that inside and outside. You know, very important to look at that. Plus, you know, they're decent at shooting free throws. So when it comes to crunch time, they're going to have a very good shot at winning this conference. So obviously, money line rollover is something you might want to do here, but plus 550 really isn't that bad. I mean, they're going to, if you look at their favorite, you know, they're going to be a pretty big favorite here against Denver. And the reason that South Dakota State's such a big favorite is because they're massive favorites here. Look at minus 25 against Nebraska, Omaha. But it's important to see this. There's all the pressure on South Dakota State here. I hate the fact that they're undefeated in the conference because now they know they're not in the dance unless they win this thing. It adds more pressure. Like, I just went undefeated in the conference. I might not even make it to the big dance, and they will not make it to the big dance because they have no quality wins over anybody past 108. Well, Bradley, I guess, at 91, right? That's it. So I think North Dakota State is ready to take this. And Kyle, you made a great point about their game with Oral Roberts. And Oral Roberts was Cinderella last year. North Dakota State had a year to think about being Cinderella. So I'm thinking that they're poised to take this this whole bracket.
Yeah, I think when you look at this one, you have to either take North Dakota State or Oral Roberts there at the bottom of the bracket. And obviously, that'd be a good matchup there in the second game, North Dakota State and Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts could win that game, certainly. But I can't lay minus 190 or minus 200 with South Dakota State. I think there's going to be some close games here. And Kiev, look at the last few games between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. They've played 3 times last year. South Dakota State won by 2 points, by 1 point, and North Dakota State won by 2. So really close games. And then both games this year decided by 4 points. Very close games here. I think North Dakota State would certainly stand a chance. And if you're giving me a team at 5.5 to 1 versus a team that's, you know, minus 200, I have to look to that. And I think Rocky Cruiser, the big man for North Dakota State's been a really good player for a long time. Nice name too, Rocky Cruiser. You know, whenever you can reference Rocky Cruiser, I feel like you have to. But North Dakota State's rounded into form here at the end of the season. They won a lot on the road. This is a team that's not been dependent on winning at home, which we talk about quite a bit this time of the year. I think it's vitally important. So as we look at this conference tournament, I'd look to play some unders on those really high totaled games. They'll probably have to be hold your nose unders in a lot of cases. And I do think South Dakota State is beatable. Now, do they deserve to be the favorite? Certainly. I agree 100% with Kiev that it's a negative that they went undefeated because now it doesn't really matter if they lose in this conference tournament because they still won't make the big dance. So there's still a ton of pressure on them. These other teams are all gunning for them. I like the thoughts here, Kiev. Anything you want to add?
No, the height of North Dakota State is important to look at. 3 guys 6'10" or above, you know, that's going to really help when it comes to rebounding and getting those misses. A lot of pressure on these kids. There's going to be some misses in this arena, especially if it goes toward the under, right, Kyle?
Yeah, definitely. And North Dakota State in minutes continuity, easy for me to say, 6th in the country, according to KenPom. So this team has been here before. They have almost everybody back. They came up just short last year. I do like this one, and I am going to put some money on North Dakota State. So we're in agreement on this one. Kiev, thanks for breaking this down here with me today.
No problem. Everyone have a good one.
And check out the oddsbreakers.com, huntersportspicks.com. Check out everything that's going on at Sports Wagering U. We're excited for everything going forward. We got the March Madness class already up. Check it out there and follow SWU everywhere. Thanks for tuning in today.
Best of luck, everyone.